Casual Magic has been brought to you by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can get cool stuff. Use the code CASUAL for 5% off your order. We're also sponsored by Quiver Time, makers of the Quiver and Bolt deck cases and other fine card-holding accessories. Use the code CASUAL on their site for 10% off your purchase. And by Architect, a deck hosting website that doesn't sell anything, but they like me and I like them, so kindly use them for all your deck list needs. Now, on to the show. Hello and welcome to Casual Magic, the show where we talk about the fun side of Magic the Gathering. My name is Shivam, Bhatt, and Casual Magic is brought to you by Cool Stuff Inc., Architect, and Quiver. Today I'm very, very excited to talk to a dude whose tier list I basically read every single limited season and who I watch a lot of streams of, Deathsie, who's probably one of the most, funnest, best limited players on Twitch, something like that. Like, you and Kenji are high up there on my watch list. And so I was super stoked to be able to talk to you because I didn't think we'd be able to because you live literally on the other side of the planet from me in Bangkok.
Yep.
And that's wild, man. Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm super excited.
Thanks so much for having me. You do a lot for the Magic community, and I will see the casual Magic stuff floating around. I'm not a Commander player myself, but I always love people who love the game and people who are really putting their heart and soul into it. So thanks so much for having me, man.
Yeah, man. It's because I was watching the Twitch had this thing, the Twitch Rivals was on a few weeks ago per the recording. And I was watching you stream with Alias and I was like, oh man, I forgot. You're so much fun. I wanted to have you on my show a while ago. And I was like, oh, he's awakened my time zone. I'm just going to send you a message. So I'm super stoked.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I mean, I feel like Wizards. All right. So I don't know how much Wizards flaming we're allowed to do here and stuff, but
they don't sponsor me. Go ahead.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. So I feel like Wizards hates fun. So the thing is that it's really hard sometimes to be a Deathsie in this world of Magic the Gathering. Basically my personality is that I'm not out to get anybody, right? I'm not out to make anyone have a bad time. I am here just to be as myself as possible, and I want to understand people. I don't care if we disagree about anything, as long as we get along, it's all good, right? So, that's the way that I've incorporated my Magic the Gathering style as well, the way that I draft in the game, and I think that that's a big reason I think for my success in the space, and I've basically just tried to be the version of myself that I want to be in the world on my stream as well. I don't want to pretend to be somebody I'm not. And I think that I've got into a pretty good place and people kind of get me. So yeah, I'm pretty happy about that.
It's funny because the first few times I ran into you was during the streamer showdowns that they do in pre-release season. And I ended up playing against you a few times and you just shellacked me, completely wiped the floor with my face, ruined the day. And I was like, well, and I was like, who the hell is this guy? And I'm like, oh yeah, he's one of the best limited players on the internet. Okay, well, that's fair. I'll take it.
Yeah. And it's a really funny thing as well, because the thing is that strangely enough, I never tried to be the best, if that makes sense. I wanted to just find a way to play the game. And honestly, this is the way that I play every game. I try to find a way to play the game the way that I want to play the game. Right. And it just so happens that over time, the more that you do anything, you get better at it. Right. And I actually found ways to be competitive with it. And, my main modus operandi of entering a draft format is, all right, what are the absolute worst strategies? What are the 5-color decks that I can play and play them to an absolute perfect, AI scripted level and destroy everybody. And I've been rank 1 multiple times. I'm always the highest, one of the highest win rates on the ladder. And it's shocking to me as well. I didn't know it was possible, but here we are.
That's so funny to me. You're I'm going to take this garbage deck made of draft crap and I'm going to go mythic with it. But that's why I like looking at your tier lists because they're very helpful to me because look, I'm a casual player. I'm a commander player.
Sure.
But limited is my other favorite way to play. And so I jam a lot of drafts and I'm middle, medium tier. Like if I spent more time, I'm sure I could be better, but like
Of
I have a
course.
family and stuff. But like I like the fact that you like when I watch your streams, you put it out in a very clear and easy to follow way. I mean, mind you, it's like the same way LSV will make Storm decks look super easy, and then you'll try to
Sure.
draft it and be like,
Exactly.
"That was a pile of garbage. What the hell
Yeah.
just happened to me?" Um, but like your decks end up being silly, and
Yeah,
that's
they're
really
silly.
it's silly but good, and I like
Yeah, it
that's the
makes no
kind of magic.
sense.
Yeah, no, it really doesn't. It's but that's the kind of magic I love to see. Like
Yeah.
take this trash and make it gold.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it must be super weird for you though, because like you stream at like odd hours, or at least
Uh-huh.
from stateside. Like, why are you in Bangkok?
Sure. So like I'm here in Bangkok for multiple reasons. I ended up coming here with some of my millionaire poker friends. And mind you, I am poor. All right. I'm a poor person. Like I am one of you guys, okay? Like don't get me wrong. But I came here to Bangkok and you know, it was really much on a whim. I ended up really loving the country. I made a lot of good friends here. There are a lot of really, really like lifelong friends that I've made here.
How long you been there?
I've been here for almost 2 years now. I think
Nice.
almost 2 years now. And the other thing is that I'm a vegetarian, and you know,
So I.
if somebody's a vegetarian, they'll always let you know. All right, you know, get through that. But
If
yeah,
I
so
don't let you know, you're going to try to feed me something I can't eat. What do you want?
exactly. So I've been a vegetarian for I think 16 years now. And food for us vegetarians is always a really hard thing. Here in
Yeah.
Bangkok, some of the best vegetarian food absolutely in the world. So I've been, you know, I haven't really felt an incentive to go anywhere else.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've got really strong Buddhist culture there, so they've got a lot of like food that we can eat, which I love. But then also you end up with like just shrimp and random things. I'm like, okay,
Exactly
what are
true.
you gonna do?
True.
It's wild because like before we started, you were telling me that you were from San Jose, which is where I'm
Yeah.
from, and it's weird how many Magic players have just come from like the Bay Area who are just becoming things now. Like a professor of Tolarian Community College used to live here,
Okay.
and like you know, Asian Avengers in San Jose and all that. But so do you like so you do this full time, right? Like streaming and stuff?
Yeah, so streaming is my full-time thing. And it's kind of weird because like I do love streaming, but the thing is that I am a full-time streamer mainly out of necessity. You know, more so rather than like okay, well, you know, if I had to choose instead of streaming like sometimes I'm streaming like 60 hours a week even.
Oh Jesus.
But like if I had a choice, I would do much more like kind of LSV does, you know, like maybe I'll stream here and there, but I would much rather be spending my time elsewhere. Not that I hate streaming. I love my community. I love streaming. I love playing Magic, but you know, life is more than just streaming. Life is more than just Magic. Like there's a lot more to do, and I have a lot of skill sets that are very valuable in many circles. So it's much more fulfilling to me to be able to split that time up and allocate it well. But yeah, I am a full-time streamer.
Yeah, because like one of the things we run into is like the work-life balance for people who make content is very strange, right? Yeah. Like when I work in tech, I've got a job day and then I can come home and I've got life and I can do other things or whatever. When you're doing content, we are like on all the time. Yep. Like this is what we have to do. And if we like dip out for a day or two, our audience leaves and goes somewhere else and never comes back. And you're like,
it hurts.
And that is incredibly unhealthy and incredibly just bad for like, I mean, it's burnout and it's all the kind of just crazy stuff that comes along with the fact that, I mean, you live in Bangkok, go out and enjoy Thailand, man. True, don't sit here and stare at a screen.
True. Usually I don't get out. Like most months, I will literally go outside maybe like 3 times. And it'll just be like outside, like nearby, you know, like I'm not really going out that much. So yeah, like this sort of work and lifestyle, it is both a blessing and a curse, I would say. Like it's almost impossible for me to have normal romantic relationships. I have great relationships with my friends, you know. That's the beauty of the age we live in. But you know, there's a lot of things that are lost that have to be given up in order to be a master at your craft, I think.
Right.
and that's just the nature of it. And
I
a
mean,
lot of people do see that, but but not everybody knows, I guess.
yeah, I mean that's fair. Like if you want to be a master chef, you're going to spend a lot of time in the kitchen.
Mhm.
Any like career that you want to master, you're going to obviously focus a lot of time on. But I guess the weird thing is because like content creation just skews so young, we
Yeah.
end up burning a lot of weird hours that, like, I mean, it's weird. I don't want to dog on this because that's literally what I do, right? Like, so
Exactly.
I'm not gonna be sitting here like, oh, all you kids need to get off my no, whatever, dude. It's like, we sit here and we jam games and we have a good time.
Yep.
But I just like to remind people, like, hey, man, you know what? You're gonna have more fun if you're also having a balanced and healthy
Mhm.
life.
Yep.
But like, I don't care. Like, you stream at an hour that lets me watch you, so that makes me happy.
Yeah, I mean, this time slot as well. So like the late night hours,
It's like
I
you
would
and
look,
Mengucci.
yeah, I would look at it as a sort of equilibrium thing. Whereas when I was first getting into streaming, and I think I was first getting into streaming Magic maybe 5 years ago now, like it's been a long time. But it was like the late night slot was pretty open, right? And generally the way of the world, like imagine if you're at Disneyland, right? And there are 3 lines, one line is shorter, well, you're gonna get the shorter line. That's essentially how it works. And I've tried to adhere to that schedule. I think that it was much better during COVID, but
Yes.
like now people are getting back to their jobs and stuff. That's probably not the best time slot for me to be streaming in, but it works with my schedule here in Bangkok because I
Yeah.
could wake up at like 8, 9 a.m., stream at 10 a.m., and then that's going to be like 7, 8 p.m. PST, right?
Yeah.
On the West Coast. And it really lines up really well. And I get to pretend for at least a little bit that I'm a normal human being as well, you know? So that's part of the reason as well that I like to live in Asia as opposed to the West. Because in the West, I was streaming the D-Gen hours. I was living in Houston. And so that would be like 10. I would start streaming at 10 p.m., finish at 6 a.m., and then order some like Chick-fil-A and feel like garbage. So
yeah, dude, that is one of the things. Like, I look at people who are here in the States doing like the midnight hours stuff, and I'm like, you guys are going to eat like goblins, and like it's going to be like pitch black, and you're going to sleep through the day, and it's going to just be a misery time.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, what are you going to do? You got to do what you got to do.
Yep.
How did you find Magic?
Yeah, so the funny thing is that growing up, I was much more of a Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, even Digimon, like I played that really old Digimon card game that nobody knew how to play the game actually, right? It was just collecting the cards and stuff, but
yeah.
So back then, I did see Magic the Gathering around. I saw these sweaty nerds in the library play Magic the Gathering, and I'm like, why are they in public playing with naked angels and stuff, right? Like that's so weird.
I'm definitely one of those sweaty nerds.
Yeah, and the thing is that at the point I didn't really understand. And at some points, I believe it was like around Innistrad, around Return to Ravnica time. I think how old was I? I was probably about 21, 22, something like that. My brothers and their friends were getting into Magic a lot, and they wrote me into it. And I was like, this stupid game, I've seen it before. Right? All right. Yeah, I guess I'll play with you guys for a little bit. And basically what happened is that we played through the night. After they all got tired, went home, went to bed, I was still deck building, and I was up for something like 32 hours, in a row. And I was like, dude, this is the best. I love it. Like, this is the absolute best. And the weird thing about Magic for me is that I'm actually not into the art. I'm actually not into the whole, I don't know, the story, the lore. Yeah, the story, the lore that people are into. I really love the game mechanically, right? As a sort of mathematical puzzle. And that was always what drew me into the game.
Yeah, I mean, there's a bunch of people like Ben. God, what the hell is his name? The guy who's he's like a Hall of Fame player, super good at limited, and
Ben Stark.
Ben Stark. Ben Stark is exactly like that. Where me and him were talking in Minneapolis, and he was like, "Yeah, man, if the cards were just like primary colors, no art, just like this a red block,
exactly
on the bottom, he would be totally fine because it's just like the top half of the card means nothing to him."
Yep.
And I'm like, you know what, man? That's it. Like for every Vorthos, there's got to be an anti-Vorthos, right?
Exactly.
Like, somebody who does not care that Avacyn and Grizzlebrand are fighting. It doesn't even matter at all. It's just like, do these numbers work together in a synergistic way that'll let me beat you? Let's go.
I love it. But
Meanwhile,
again,
like, and I'm making commander decks where the basic land has to be from the exact plane of the commander. Otherwise, I've got a problem because it's not thematically accurate, right?
Exactly. And that's a cool thing. And also the worst thing about Magic, I think, is that there's something for everybody, but then there are so many things for everybody that sometimes there's nothing for anyone. Like that. So what I'm trying to say is that it's so segregated, right? Like we all play the same game. But like, oh yeah, well, some people like limited, but they only play Magic Online. They only play Vintage Cube. Some people only play the current format, which is generally what I do, right? Some people play Commander, and even though everybody plays Magic, everyone plays Magic for different reasons. They play different formats, and it's not really like one community. So it's a really weird thing, and that doesn't really happen in other games.
Yeah, it's like I was talking to somebody a few years ago, and I said like, Commander is not a format. Magic is not a game. It's more of an umbrella under which multiple games exist.
Yep.
There's the Commander section, and then there's a bunch of subsections under Commander. There's the limited people, the sealed people, the Chaos Draft, the folks who make their own cubes, the Brawl people, whatever, and like 60. Sometimes it feels like a 60 card constructed player and a limited player and a Commander player wouldn't be able to talk to each other.
And we don't
like not even speaking the same language. Like, what's a combat trick, right? Like, I don't
know. And that's a weird thing about Magic. And Magic, I feel like that's a problem that Magic needs to solve. And honestly, it might just be an unsolvable issue.
Yeah, I think they've just made a game that's too robust and too many people. I mean, the thing about Magic that makes it amazing is that people find ways to take these cards and use them in entirely different ways, like coming up with like Canadian Highlander or whatever random, formats that just exist. And I think it's cool. I think it's awesome. It also means that sometimes I'll post a card on Twitter and someone will be like, "Oh my God, that's going to be amazing for my Glambleham deck." And I'm like, Your Glambleham?
Oh yeah, what's a Glambleham, right?
You know what? God bless, man. And it was like, didn't you know it was in the secret layer that came out? I'm like, sure, let's go with that. If you're enjoying yourself, I'm down. Whatever.
Yep, exactly.
So, do you mainly play 60 card or limited, or like, what's your focus?
Yeah, so I mainly play limited. For me, I feel like limited is just the absolute best format, and it's a weird thing too because how good the format is just depends with how good the set is. Right. So like some sets are going to be much better than others. And obviously that's a subjective thing as well. Other people will like sets that I don't like and vice versa. But for me, constructed was always a thing that existed because you couldn't always fire off a draft your LGS. It was like, okay, I'm playing constructed, not because I necessarily want to, but it's because it's like 3 weeks into the set and people don't want to draft or whatever. So I guess I'll play this thing to hang out with my friends, right? But constructed in Magic specifically, right? Like I have like constructed in other games like Hearthstone, for example. But constructed in Magic for me is generally pretty lackluster. I will say that there have been some metas, some formats like the Innistrad and Return to Ravnica constructed back in the day was a really, really fantastic standard format, and that was actually honest fun. But looking at it from my perspective, looking at it objectively or whatever, over the years, a lot of constructed format, like a lot of standard formats specifically, are just not fun, in my opinion, right?
Sure.
And it's just hard to make fun constructed formats, in my opinion, especially standard. And standard, we all know the problems with standard. They're trying to revamp it and stuff. Nobody's playing it, but for a good reason.
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, like when standard is good, Magic is good, but it's hard because they don't make good standards anymore. Everybody's like, I want to play Eternal formats, and they're like, all right, great, we're going to turn Eternal into standard. Here's Fury, and it's like, God damn it, that's not what I wanted at all. Because when I started playing, constructed was literally just it. There was no limited. It was literally starter decks, and you take them and you build decks out of them and play. And like, when I discovered sealed deck for the first time, where it's like they give you a starter deck and a couple of boosters and you build a deck out of it. And I'm like, this is the greatest of all time. Yeah. This is all I want to do. I didn't start drafting until I came back to Magic during like Innistrad time.
Okay.
So I missed like all that stuff. And limited though is like, I like it because it's a puzzle. It's like, here's a set fixed number of cards. You got to figure it out. You got to build a deck out of this. And you don't need to worry about finding the 12 constructed plants in the set that'll make the winning meta deck. It's just like, look, here's a 2-3 for 3. Play it or don't. Your job to figure it out.
Exactly. So to add on that point as well, the way that I look at it, the way that I look at it is basically like it. So if Fortnite or PUBG, a battle royale, was a card game, that's basically what Limited is, right? Like you basically you drop in with absolutely nothing, and all you have are booster packs, and then you play with that, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
Like that's the kind of person I am, right? Like I actually don't like to have physical cards, as weird as that sounds. I like to live a very minimalist lifestyle, and having all these cards, having a collection, to me that's just all garbage. It's all trash. Like I hate it. I just absolutely hate it.
Directly in front of me is like just random unbuilt decks or whatever.
Yeah. Exactly. It's like so that's not what I like, right? So I like to be able to go into your local game store with your $15 or whatever, and I'll come in, no sleeves, no dice, no paper, and you draft and you get to play, and that's good enough. It's amazing.
Lower your gain a smidge.
Okay, sorry.
No
I will move it away from my face.
Oh yeah, that'll probably work too.
Okay.
Yeah, but like, I mean, it's wild to me because I just love the fact that Limited changes all the time. It's never the same. Your deck is never the same. Your gameplay is. I mean, that's the same reason I play Commander. I want variant. I want. Like, I don't like the fact that in a standard or in a 60 card deck or whatever, there's like you have like 5 cards in your deck. You've just got 4x of them, but there's like 5 cards tops you're playing with, and it's just boring. You're like the same things do the same thing. I'm like I was playing Cons today because it just came out on Arena, and I was like, man, this is so wildly different from Ixalan, and the format's completely different. And all 3 drafts I did were just like wildly different games.
Exactly.
And Cons is a fantastic format, so I'm super stoked to see it again.
Cons a special one for me as well. I actually back in the day when I was living in England, so I was living in England.
You've been all over the place.
Yeah, I've been all over the place, man. It's crazy. I've lived in SoCal, NorCal, Texas. I've lived multiple places in England. I did my undergrad there. I did my undergrad there at Durham University, and then I did my master's in London at London School of Economics.
Damn.
Yeah.
Why are you if you did a master's at the London School of Economics, why are you living in Bangkok playing card games?
Yep. Exactly. So my friends make fun of me all the time. They basically say that I'm the smartest poor person they've ever met. Yeah. But it's true. It's true. Like I am such a chaotic person that I have decided, that like money is important, but more important than that is my freedom, my agency, being able to do what I want to do. And if I'm poor, then that's just the name of the game. Like, it's too bad. I
mean, it's less about being poor and more about just like you've been all over the damn place. Like that's you just not like to settle down anywhere. Or you're like, okay, I've done this. Now I'm moving off to the next continent.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I feel like so one of the things that I believed very, very early on is I don't believe in this sort of retirement 401k philosophy that we're so indoctrinated with in America, right? It's like, okay, well, you can work your entire life, and then at 40 or 50, you can retire and travel the world. Like, why don't I just travel the world now? And then later, when I'm old and I can't do shit stuff, like later when I can't do anything, all right, then that's when I'm gonna be trading. I'm gonna be making money. I'm gonna be doing all that stuff. It makes way more sense to me.
I mean, dude, that's what I did. Before my wife and I settled down and had a kid, we were like, all right, we're going to go. We're living in Japan. We went to Korea. I've traveled the world multiple times. Like, because like what is the saying? Youth is wasted on the young. Like you're not,
exactly.
Just go and explore, enjoy yourself. I mean, I got lucky because my parents are well-off-ish enough that when we grew up, like they came from India and we're like, our religious teacher goes around the world and does like his sermons or whatever over 9 days. So we used to like not do anything, not buy anything at home. We would like, eat like, we would basically live poverty and then save up $1 billion and then be like, all right, we're going to go on vacation to Bali or Russia or wherever the guru is this time. So I've seen like most of the world and I've traveled all over the place before. I was even, like, and it's like, it is so important to just explore and see things. And I mean, look, if I could get away with it, I would totally be living in Bangkok slinging cards too. And like that sounds like the ideal life to me. But I have a a family,
Yeah,
and a
yeah,
house, and
yeah.
a kid,
A
and
lot of a lot of
responsibilities.
commitments and responsibilities.
Yeah,
That's totally
elderly parents, the whole
understandable.
thing. Um, yeah, being the old, like my brother lost his job, and he's like, I'm going to India for 3 months. Bye, and then he's like,
Yeah.
yeah, now I'm in Portugal, and now I'm in like Morocco. I'm
Yeah,
like, what the hell,
exactly.
man?
Like it's a blessing in disguise, right?
Yeah, and I'm like, I'm the older brother, so I get to stay at home and watch mom and dad. Bye.
Yeah. But basically the moral of the story here is that there are so many things that people want to do, but what are you waiting for? Right?
Yeah,
Like I get it if you have a family, I get it if you have
sure.
responsibilities, but a lot of times what I see at least is that we're making excuses for ourselves, right? Like we're putting it off for some more convenient point in the future. What I'm telling you is that it doesn't come. Like it actually doesn't come. Like you need to decide on how you want your life to go and be able to express that little bit of agency that we have in this world, right? And
Yeah,
so that's the way that I've lived, and I try to live by example. Like us being vegetarians as well, I think it's like part of that philosophy. Whereas like it does one person really make a difference in the overall scheme of things? Not really, right? But we should live by example. Like we live in the way that we think is correct by our own
yeah,
logic, and that's all that we can do as human beings, right?
exactly.
So
It's like,
yeah, so that's a big thing for me.
I mean, that's part of like my life pattern is like, look, man, one droplet's not going to do anything. A lot of droplets becomes a river, right?
Yeah,
Like you have to,
true.
but it's also just like if you model behavior where you're a good person who's doing good things and making other people's lives better and make them want to hang out with you,
Yeah.
did you really lose anything? You
Yeah,
made the world better
I
and
didn't
you
lose
got to be
anything.
happy all the time.
I
That's
didn't lose
great.
anything. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Um, that's a very good point, and like I envy that. I also
thank you.
probably would get a little kind of like
Restless, maybe,
shaky,
or
maybe a little nervous about just being like, oh, I need to find some stability, but that's because my parents have
yeah.
instilled in me the fear. Um,
Hmm.
anyways, let me shift topics for a second. One
Okay.
of the things that I love seeing from you every season is a tier list, and
Yep.
I'm always curious, like, how do you decide? How do you make that? How do you come up with a tier list? What do you decide?
Okay.
Like when you look at a brand new limited format, what do you do?
Okay. So basically the philosophy of why the tier list came out is that I found it very hard to convey to other people just by words of like what exactly I'm talking about, right? So like
Mm,
yeah, I can explain things in a pretty good way, but it's really hard to convey that to a mass audience. So the tier list idea was essentially a way to show people a window into my mind of how I evaluate cards, of how I look at the game.
mm,
And the weird thing is that actually I kind of even don't even believe in tier lists. Like I don't believe it in the sense that I like to go in without any assistance, right?
mm,
I actually don't believe in tool assisted gaming at all. And so even if it's just even if it's just a deck tracker, right, in Magic Arena,
mm.
actually the last 5 years, I don't stream with a deck tracker.
That's wild.
So like a lot of these complicated decks, like I'm often drafting combo decks in limited, right? I'm drafting combo decks that actually you need to know exactly what's in your deck. You need to know exactly what cards your opponents played. You need to understand basically what other cards that are likely to be played in their deck and formulate your game plan around that, right? And I do all that without a deck tracker because I think that's just good practice. I don't want to get lazy, right?
That's entirely fair.
This to me is the way that we play games. So that's a big part of my philosophy, and I think that has shown a lot of rewards over the years, just to make me a better player. But
Yeah.
going back to my tier list is that I think that was one of the things that I could offer to the space. And moving into the space to begin with, I had a lot to prove. Right, I had a lot to prove.
What were you
This is
actually? We
Mhm.
should actually talk about that for a second because I think I elided over that a bit. How
Okay.
did you get into streaming and why did you choose Magic to decide to stream?
Yeah. So a little bit more about my background is that while I was living in England for the 4.5 years I was in England, I was actually doing a lot of esports work as well. So I actually
Mm.
hosted an esports television talk show in London for over a year.
What the
Yes.
hell?
So it was like a legitimate TV studio right in London King's Cross, and and I was a co-host on that for over a year. I think I have like over 200 live hours on television. Yeah.
I feel like I'm discovering parts of your like history in chunks, and they're just bizarre.
It's really bizarre.
Like, they're entire stories by themselves.
Yeah, exactly. Like my lore is so convoluted that it just doesn't really make a lot of sense. But yeah, so anyways, I was in England. I was doing full-time master's degree at London School of Economics, right? Like that's already a full-time job. But I managed to game the system in a way where I actually, instead of selecting classes that I wanted, instead of selecting modules that I wanted, I selected modules that were all on Tuesday and Thursday. Okay. So, obviously I try to pick the ones that I liked, but for the most part, I just try to put everything on 2 days. So what that means is that every single day, Monday through Friday, I was doing my television show. On the weekends, I would fly out to studios around England and Europe to commentate Hearthstone tournaments. Okay. I was doing Hearthstone commentating at the same time as doing my TV show and my master's degree. And I was also a professional Hearthstone player on top of all that too. So I was competing in tournaments. So I was living like 4 lives at once. Yeah. And I graduated top of my class.
What the how the hell are you?
I graduated top of my class, and I actually didn't miss a single class. I didn't miss a single class.
God damn, man.
Yep.
I remember stories of old pros who used to be like, yeah, I go grinding at GPs and Pro Tours on the weekends, and then during the week I'm doing my PhD program at Stanford. You're crazy. You guys are crazy.
Yeah, it makes no sense. It makes no sense, but for me, not to toot my own
the episode is about you. Toot it all.
Yeah, but it was like school for me was generally always pretty easy. It was always pretty easy. It was like, so my philosophy going to school, I never took notes. Okay. We sit in class. I never took notes. What I'm doing is I'm actually scribbling in my notepad, like drawing little sketches and stuff. Okay. And while I'm doing this, I'm listening to the lecturer and I'm absorbing everything and forming my own opinions while doing all that. So it's part of my ADHD brain as well. Like it's kind of how that works.
I was the exact same way.
Yeah. And it's like taking notes makes no sense to me because I'm going to take these notes that I can't read because my handwriting sucks. I'm not going to
look at them again.
Yeah.
Like why?
I'm not going to go back and check on it because, I'm not going to understand the context. So why don't I just scribble around and pay attention? That's it.
Exactly. God, you're the only other person I've ever met who does it. It's just like,
yeah. And I've actually, a little bit of a side change. I've had teachers over the years where they're seeing me scribbling in my notepad, like drawing and stuff. And they're like, hey, you can't do that. Go take notes. And I'm like, haven't I gotten an A on every single assignment and every single test? And she's like, I don't care. Right. And so I'm like, I began to hate the school, like hate school systems, traditional education. So from a very young age, it was like, I was just too different. I don't know, man. I was just too different, and like nobody really understood my methodologies and stuff. But yeah, so I was doing all of that in England, and I had a blast. That's where I met a lot of people. And it wasn't until after I moved back to the States. So long story short, my master's degree was finishing up. My visa was finishing up as well. So I either had to take like a really, really garbage job there in London. I've had some offers from various entities. It was like my TV studio, my also Red Bull as well, the Red Bull sphere there. Both of them were offering me like £30,000 a year. Right? Like it's absolutely nothing to live in London. Yeah. And so I was like, you know what? It's been a while. I've been away for a long time. I think it's time to go back home to the States and to actually spend some time with my family and my grandparents. Right. So moving back to the States, my grandfather, I got to see him twice before he passed away. Right. Oh. And for me, that was something that I was really proud of myself for because I gave up like my career. I gave up all these things I had going for me to go back and do something that I wanted to do that I thought was important. Right. Yeah. Like he took care of me when I was a kid. when I was young, he would drive an hour from his home to come pick me up, then an hour to church, to a Vietnamese Catholic school, right? And as much as I hated Vietnamese Catholic school, that's a different story than what he did for me, right?
Yeah,
like
of course.
the sort of love that he showed to me, it was like, what sort of a person am I that I'm just going to be focusing all of my career and I'm actually not taking time to come back and do the things that I need to do.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So,
respectable.
Thank you. So it was around that time when I actually got into streaming. So moving into the story a little bit is that Show. So I'm sure you're familiar with a streamer named Show, right? Show, he used to stream a lot of Magic the Gathering, and before that he was a Hearthstone streamer. Anyways, so he had me on at this time. Actually, I no longer played Magic. So I no longer played Magic the Gathering, but from our time together in professional Hearthstone, he knew that I was a really high level limited player. So he had me on to teach him the ropes and to kind of catch him up with limited. And he was a big streamer at the time. I think like 1,500 viewers, and his entire community was like, "Show, this guy has no idea what he's talking about. Like, why are you listening to him?" Right? Unanimously. And people in chat would be like, "Hey, don't you know that there's a pro player here in the chat?" And I'm like, "Okay, they're a pro player. What's your point?" Right? Like, what's your point?
Good for
Make
you.
a better argument for me to actually buy into what you're saying. So anyways, I had a lot to prove, right? I had a lot to prove. And I was like, you know what? All these people who have been playing Magic for 25 years, nobody knows how to play. Okay? As rude as that sounds. Literally, nobody knows how to play the game. Everybody's falling like bread. Bombs removal, evasion. And I'm like, what are you guys talking about? Like, are you guys 12 years old? You know? Like, what are you talking about? Right? So I had to come in and I had to tell people actually how to play the game. So basically my tier list was a reflection of that. And I came in and I was like, all right, I actually have some value to add to this community, right? To players. And so that's how my stream came about. People ended up buying into my snakeskin oil, you know? and here we are, you know?
Jeez.
People time and time again were like, dude, this guy literally has no idea what he's doing. And then they're like, why is he rank 1 mythic? Right? Why is he top of the leaderboard? It makes no sense. And I think a lot of people still, at some point, still wrote me off because they couldn't understand it.
Yeah. So wait, so you basically like you got irritated enough to pick up like Arena and start being like, yo, I'm going to start just jamming and see what happens?
Exactly. Yeah.
That's so funny.
And it was weird because I had streamed over the years. I streamed Hearthstone, I streamed some other variety of games, but my viewership was like 50 viewers on a really good day, right? So I was like, you know, the streaming thing probably is not cut out for me. I'm probably missing something that everybody else has or whatever. But Magic Arena, I'm going to give it one fair shot. And this was at a point in my life where I had $100 in my bank account.
That is the most Asian story I've ever heard. Yeah. So there I am with like $8 in my pocket, and I moved to a different country and start streaming.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, at this time, I was streaming in my parents' attic in Houston, right? So so I did have that sort of support network of like my parents were actually okay with me trying out new stuff or whatever.
Sure.
But in reality, I was poor. I was really, really poor. I was like, man, I've got to sell off like some of these things around the home, you know, to have some money to spend.
Jeez.
Yeah.
That's so wild to me. Like your story is so incredibly
surreal.
Surreal is a word. It's just like, it's so wild. Like you have done a lot of things and been to I'm like just trying to conceptualize like I had a through line when I started and I'm like, what the hell? Where are we going with this?
Dude,
this is wild.
It's chaotic.
No, this is amazing though. It's like because getting to number 1 on Mythic out of like spite is kind of amazing. It's kind of insane. And because it's hard. Like Arena is very hard because unlike drafting at your store, it's literally the whole world in one pool.
Sure.
And you're competing against everybody for ranking. And that's incredibly difficult. But
yeah. Sorry. So to add on to that is like, I think over the years I've streamed, some months I tried a lot more. Like during the early days of Magic Arena, I actually tried like really, really hard.
Do you remember what set you came to Arena on?
Yeah, I came to Arena. I believe it was Guilds of Ravnica. Yeah, Guilds of Ravnica, and then after Guilds of Ravnica, it was Ravnica Allegiance. Ravnica Allegiance is kind of where I made my first sort of small claim to fame, and I played a lot of these clear the mind decks. So this is a strategy that basically nobody was doing, and I was forcing 0 creature decks every single draft.
Oh,
okay, zero creature decks, and a lot of the times I didn't have a win condition apart from 2 copies of Clear the Mind, which reveres a home. If you don't know what that is, it's 3 mana blue sorcery. Shuffle your graveyard into your deck and draw a card. Like
oh god, I remember that stupid.
Yeah, like a really inconspicuous card that you would easily just write off as garbage, right, in a draft format. So I was basically like trying to break this card, and the philosophies that I came up with kind of shook the world. It was like I was playing 0 creature decks. A lot of times I had no win condition. My win condition was them drawing cards every single turn and milling themselves out from naturally drawing. So it would be like hour-long best of 1 games, right? And it was so chaotic. I loved it. It was great.
I remember that damn deck too, because it was just like playing. There was the old Flask deck or whatever it was during the
like Brothers
Arrows era.
Yeah.
Early, it was like where you could just sit and it was a control deck that did nothing but tried to mill you out eventually.
That's right.
It is the most miserable experience to play against because you're like sitting there spinning your wheels. You can't do anything. They're just going to eventually survive. And you're like, well, damn. But yeah, that was a hilarious deck. I remember when that came out in the format.
Yeah, so I've always kind of been like a bit of an agent of chaos, and Wizards, like shout out to Wizards for sure. Like we've done a lot of good work together over the years. And there are a bunch of people there at Wizards that I absolutely love. Like I don't have anything against any employees, right? Most of my complaints come from like Wizards as an organization, I guess. But but a lot of times I think that I just don't fit that narrative of like what they're looking for. I'm just too much chaos.
I know the feeling. But I mean, like, it's weird because like I work with Watsy a lot pretty regularly just because, but like I'm a Twitter dude and a podcaster. That's not the face. Like they want streamers and people who will sell cards. I'm like, I don't really do that.
Arguable, I think. Arguable, but yeah.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fun. Because I know that you got onto the Pro Tour and then they wouldn't let you defer your thing, and that's just messed up, man. Like
exactly.
I was mad about that.
I was like, okay, so a little bit about that. I actually accidentally qualified to the Pro Tour and Mythic Championship. Yeah, so my mindset going into these tournaments on Magic Arena is that actually it doesn't matter what's on the line. I'm actually going to play the exact same that I always do, right? And so I ended up. It was a Brothers War. And I ended up going 14-0, not dropping a single game, right?
Jesus Christ.
And at the end of that, I was like, wait, where's my money? Right? Because I thought it was like one of those ones where you just get money. And then my viewers had to tell me that, no, hey, you actually qualified for both the Pro Tour and the Mythic Championship too. And I was like, I don't want that. Like, I don't want
money.
Yeah, like just give me the money, dude. Like, bro, what are you doing? Right? And so it turns out I qualified to the Pro Tour. And as I was living in Bangkok, the Pro Tour was all the way in Philadelphia. And I'm like, dude, there's no way that I'm flying all the way out there to play a format that I don't like to play, constructed, right? And also, it was Phyrexia All Will Be One. It was Phyrexia All Will Be One, constructed and limited, right? So I was like, why would I do that? So I didn't go. I just didn't go. I did play the Mythic Championship too because I could play that from home. But Wizards, it was weird. It was like I messaged Wizards, asked if I could defer my invite, asked if there was any support that was possible for me to like be able to pay for the trip, because it was gonna be like a $3,000-$4,000 trip for me, right?
It's a very far distance from Bangkok to Philadelphia.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is that I would love to tell you that they gave me, a decent response, but they didn't even reply to me. Actually, no reply.
It's so
I'm just like, how much am I actually valued to them, right? That I'm like going on my way. I'm like devoting a good part of my life to Magic, and there's just no sort of there's no sort of
There's no loyalty here.
Yeah, like loyalty or reciprocation, right?
Yeah,
I'm fine if they're like, hey man, we can't do it. I'm sorry, like talk to me at least. But there's nothing. So
yeah.
Like, what am I supposed to do, right? I think that I'm a very understandable person for the most part. But anyone would be, pretty confused, I think.
For sure.
So, yeah.
I mean, it's a messed up situation because, like, look, they don't need to. I mean, even if they wanted to say no, they could have said no.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Like, they could have just said, like, yo, you know what? I'm sorry, this is not in our budget to be able to help you, but whatever. But, like, I don't know. I think it was weird because I was also like a transitory time where, like, Huey Jensen was taking over the Pro Tour for the first time, and they're trying. I mean, I don't know. I don't want to make excuses for them. It's not my company.
Yeah,
but it's just like Daddy Hasbro has the money. Like, this is.
Yeah, I'm not saying it's easy for them. Like, I'm not saying it's easy for them, but
it's also like they could have been.
Yeah, like they're not an indie company. They're $1 billion corporation. They have the funds to find the right people to do the right things, and the way that I look at it is that when they don't, it's just it's just a lack of due diligence. So
it's frustrating, but I hope that going forward, at least they can try to figure something out, or put a Pro Tour in Asia so that you don't have to fly to Philadelphia. Maybe
I'd love to go.
Yeah, that would be amazing. What do you think about Limited has been so far, like this past year? How has it been for you?
So it's really, really rough. I feel like Phyrexia All Will Be One and Streets of New Capenna were sets that were so bad that I honestly don't even consider it Magic. All right, as offensive as that is, like that's not even Magic. It's so bad, and I'm just like, what's going on here? But some of the saving graces. I'm a huge fan of Dave Humphries. Dave Humphries was a lead designer on Kamigawa, lead designer on March of the Machine, and War of the Spark, a bunch of really great formats that we've had.
He's amazing.
Yeah, he's amazing. Like, I'm a huge fan of his. And so every single set that he designs, I'm just like kind of mind blown that how a human can actually design like such a good Magic set. So
he makes incredibly fun. Like, he did Kamigawa, and that's like one of the most fun limited formats I've ever played.
Yeah.
Like, it's so much fun.
So for me, Kamigawa was so like, I really love the flavor of that, even though I'm generally not a flavor person. Yeah. But as a set, it was just okay for me. But a lot of people liked it as well, which was good. Like, I don't have to like everything. But it's been a really rough year for Magic.
What did you think of WoW?
Wilds of Eldraine. So I thought that normal Wilds of Eldraine was terrible. Like for me, it's something like a 2 or 3 out of 10. Okay.
Jeez.
But the Wilds of Eldraine Alchemy was a 10 out of 10.
That's wild.
Yeah, so Wilds of Eldraine Alchemy, they basically filled in the gaps of the format. They use alchemy as a solution, as a solution, and a problem
the way
solving.
Is supposed to be used.
Yeah, exactly. So they use alchemy as a problem solving solution. They filled in the gaps of the format, and everything that the format lacked. So the format was lacking bombs. The format was lacking build arounds. The format was lacking like some sort of spice, right? And it solved that. And it was a 10 out of 10 format. And I'm not an alchemy person, okay? Like, I don't like alchemy.
I don't at all.
But the thing is that's like kind of showing my objectivity that I can like things that are good, even if it's with elements that I hate, right?
What do you think about LCI then?
Yeah, Lost Caverns of Ixalan, I think that's the normal set. I actually warmed up to it. So the normal set in the beginning, it was something maybe like a 3 out of 10 for me, but Jeez. I ended up really, really liking the format. I had a lot of fun forcing cave decks. And so the format actually ended up to be probably like a 7.5, 8 out of 10 for me, right? But the alchemy version, I think that it added absolutely nothing to the format at all. So they did not use the same philosophies that they did in Wilds of Eldraine Alchemy to use it as like a problem-solving exercise, and it just doesn't make sense. Like, it's the same thing as if they didn't release it, right? So why are you wasting your resources creating this thing that doesn't solve anything? It doesn't provide a new experience, and you're calling that a product, right? Like, what are your guys doing? Just have them go home and take some time off. Like, they don't need to do it, right? That's my philosophy. Like, you're just wasting time. You're wasting everybody's time.
I mean,
Sorry.
because like alchemy, I think using alchemy as a patch to fix like limited formats is such a clever idea.
Yeah.
But sometimes I feel like they just get too into their own heads and try to be like, oh, everything's got to be a fancy seek and destroy and like, spell book. And I'm like, dude, no, just change the numbers. Just change the numbers a bit and make it like, give me a card that lets me uncommon build around that I can draft around or whatever. Don't try to over engineer this. And sometimes it feels like the alchemy cards are just over engineered. They're like, I've got infinite text space, so this card can have a scroll bar. I'm like, bro,
exactly.
If your Magic card needs a scroll bar, you have missed the boat somewhere, and you need to like rethink your life because this is a problem.
I think so as well, and it's a very interesting time for Wizards. Recent news as well. There was like 20% layoffs or whatever it has, bro.
1,100 people.
Yeah, 1,100 people. And to me, that kind of shows the reflection of, well, first of all, I think that the entire company is going through a sort of transformation. Like there's new management, there's new philosophies. They're trying to move through a sort of post-COVID era. And a lot of that is being reflected in, well, people getting laid off, people being restructured. So I understand that. But
it's a $1 billion company. You can't tell me that like they're having their most profitable year ever. And these guys are like, oh, we need to cut corner. I'm like, do you really? No, what you need, you got like some dead divisions. Sure. Okay. Maybe like your toys, like your Monopoly board games are not working out the way you want them to.
Yeah.
And like buying a film studio may be a dumb idea. Get rid of the film studio. Fine. But like an 1,100 person cut means that you guys, while you're having your most profitable year, just screams to me like.
That's a main problem for me. That's the main problem for me. It's like, I feel you pick one. It's like you pick one, you brag about how much money you made and you do things well, or you do things poorly and you don't brag about it. Right? Like the thing is that you can't have both. Like you can't have both. That is unacceptable from my perspective.
It is baffling to me that the choices the mothership is making. Like Wizard, like D&D and Magic are the pony that is dragging the wagon for Wizard of the Coast. They're the profit makers. If you're cutting from that group, why? Like, what do you think you're doing? These are the people who are literally keeping your company afloat.
Exactly.
But I mean, I don't know. The capitalism and the toy industry is just like a hot mess.
It's wild for sure.
Yeah,
it's wild.
All I do is flip cards, man. What can I say? Like, I mean, I have no room to talk. I used to work for Walmart, for God's sakes. Like,
okay.
So
I mean, I think that's fine.
The tech company.
I think it's fine.
Yeah, it's like, look, dude. I live in Silicon Valley. You got to pay your rent. The podcast doesn't pay rent, people. Let me tell you. Sign up for my Patreon, please.
Yes, check it out. Check it out. How about our homeboy Shivam here, please? He does great work.
Anyways, my friend, this has been a really interesting and fascinating conversation, and I feel like every paragraph you said, I wanted to like delve into to like be like, wait, what the hell do you mean you're at the
what did you just say, dude?
Like, wait, so what do you stream besides like? Do you stream other games besides Magic?
Yeah, so I'm actually at the moment I'm devoting a lot of my time into a new category, but this is something that we probably should have checked with you beforehand. It is Web3 crypto related. So I know that that's a sore spot for Magic viewers. So we can probably save that for another time, or I don't know. It's up to you. Yeah,
we can come back to that.
Yeah. But but anyways, like basically where my head's at is that I love good projects. I love to see passionate people who are doing good work, honest work as well. And for me, it doesn't matter what it is. Like it could be something that everybody hates. And for me, I'm not that kind of person who judges like that. So,
I mean, look, at the end of the day, you have an audience to entertain. You also need to, if you're not having fun doing your job, then you're not living your life properly.
Exactly. So I won't mention much more about it, but it is a time in life where I found projects and I found passionate people and I found passion in myself as well to work on things that actually feel fulfilling. So I've been very, very happy and I've been feeling very, very blessed about that.
That's pretty awesome, man. So if folks wanted to find you, where could they go? So
you can find me on twitter.com/Deathsie, Death SIE. You can also find me on Twitch, Death SIE as well as Instagram. Everything is the same. Deathsie.
Yeah, it's very handy to have just one branding go across the entire table. Also, I like that you're still wearing your traditional black shirt and cross earrings. I'm like, all right, man, you dress up for me. It's awesome.
Yeah. You're welcome. Yeah.
Dude, I'm just saying, it's a delight to watch you. I really do enjoy your streams, and I love reading your tier list at the beginning of every format so I can figure out what I'm doing wrong. And then I proceed to do it wrong anyways.
Yeah, I mean, it's all good, right? It's all good.
Fun. As long as I'm having fun, I don't care.
Exactly.
Right? It's fine.
Magic's all about having fun.
Yeah, dude. Live your life in joy and do the things that bring joy to you and the people around you, and you'll be fine.
Yep, and just don't hurt anybody. Live in the way that makes most sense with your logic, and nobody can really judge you.
Exactly. Yeah. Anyways, friends, if you want to find me, you can find me at Gearpuri Gears. You can find this podcast anywhere podcasts are sold, or at Cool Stuff Inc. every Tuesday, or at YouTube every Tuesday. Thanks to my editor Daniel May, and you can also find me on the Shivam and Wheeler Love Magic podcast and the Chronicles of Dragonlance podcast, and at my Patreon, which is patreon.com/ShivanB. Anyways, my friends, remember, it's not magic without the gathering, and we'll see you next time.